Oh, there we go. Yeah. So we were asked to ask people to keep the volume down on the cell phones. Airplane mode's good for all you 10 people that are here.
Yeah, everyone.
So, welcome. My name is Christian Cogswell. My artist name is Waterflame.
And I'm Denny Schneidemesser, and I'm confidently nervous. I want to remind you that this is just a fireside chat, so nothing is scripted, which means feel free to come in at any point with questions or comments if you have them, and we'll kind of do a more dynamic thing.
Yeah, it's very relaxed. So,
yes.
I'm from Norway. This guy's from Germany.
Yeah, I'm from Germany, yeah.
And we're going to talk a little bit about how we got here, basically. We've both been in the industry, 10 years? Something like that?
Give or take one.
Yeah. Two. And we kind of took different paths. I was always, let's start from the beginning.
Yes. Actually, I think you started on Newgrounds, didn't you?
Yeah.
And if anyone still knows, does anyone know Newgrounds still?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
So, and it's still a page file.
Yeah, it was the same for me actually. And you were pretty big. Still pretty big, I guess. He's kind of famous.
Well,
he's popular.
I mean, my career started on Newgrounds, but way before that, I was interested in video game music. I started off actually making music on the PlayStation. Then one remembered I think it was called Music 2000 or MTV Music Maker, something like that.
They advertise it with Moby did it too, so.
Yeah. That was the thing.
So remembers that.
Yeah, but it always just started out as a hobby for me. But I always aimed for becoming a video game composer. That was always like the end goal. I started uploading things to Newgrounds just around the web, and it sort of became just a pastime thing next to
your full-time job.
Yeah, my full-time job. Yeah, and but it was always very important to me that I did everything myself, because I was sort of scared of things like I've heard stories about labels and having an agent and how people were losing their rights to their songs. So it was always really important for me to try and do it myself.
Yes, I actually started almost the same. Pretty much wrote music on my own, and I had a plan to study and wanted to go the more traditional route, but there was a bit of a problem because I didn't have the monetary resources. I kind of applied everywhere and eventually got scholarships and figured those were still too expensive for me, for someone that is from Germany, and studying abroad it's kind of pricey.
Yeah.
And so the path I took is just teaching everything myself, which was also the case for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And at some point we built an audience on, I guess he built an audience on mostly YouTube. First it was Newgrounds actually, and
that's kind of the interesting thing, because I took the route of doing it with the community. I figured that the views and spreading my work was going to be what made it work. So I made an effort to have it as open as possible. Anyone could use my music for anything as long as it wasn't like a commercialized thing, like a product that was sold.
And that actually works really well sometimes. Most people think about, I gotta keep my music rights, I gotta be like really tight about taking down other videos that have my music in it. But the best you can actually do is just approach the video creator and perhaps build a sort of relationship, because, I don't know, perhaps they might do something that goes viral at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel that if you keep your rights too tight, and no one's actually going to know what you do. Like
exactly.
If you're starting out, it doesn't really matter if you're the best at what you do or the worst. If no one hears about what you make, right?
Yes.
No one's going to know anyway. So, there's a lot of different things that work, but for me, I have a good example. For instance, of there's a song I've made called Space Pirates. It's super old now, and I'm pretty sick of it myself, but that's a good example of a song that I uploaded to the internet. I let everyone use it in the Flash animations and things like this, and it was later picked up and used in Castle Crushers.
Nice.
Yeah, and later on it was actually also used in a mobile game called Geometry Dash. And to this day, I still own all the rights to that song, so I can now do whatever I want with it. Still, it's still a source of income, right? But it's also still open for use for pretty much anyone that wants to use it, just not sell it.
Exactly, yeah. And we wanted to say, how many of you are composers in this room? 1, 2. Oh,
yeah,
cool. Hey, that's really good. And a lot of questions we always get is, how do you sustain yourself as a composer? And that's a really, it's sort of difficult because I still remember a time where I ran after pretty much each project that I could find, and I ended up doing toothpaste commercials for a year, and it was just depressing. And whoever did that, I guess, well, if it's your thing, then if it fulfills you, then it's good, but it is difficult.
Also a point there is that you got this because you actually had an agent, right?
Oh yeah,
or will you still
having an agent is, and I know everyone thinks about, oh, I gotta get an agent, I will get signed, I'll score the next Hollywood movie with an agent, but that is not the case. And the big mistake that I did is that I actually trusted my ability.
Trusted your agent.
Actually trusted my ability onto my agent.
Yeah.
That I trusted him wasn't that bad. It was just that I was getting into a comfort bubble and barely did anything myself anymore in terms of networking. So I would really recommend to be out there yourself and kind of get in touch with people rather than having a third or a second person standing in front of you and representing you in the early stages, actually.
Yeah.
Because for me, I personally see myself as intermediate level, and I would say you're more sort of.
Well, I think you're really good at what you do with, especially with orchestral music.
It's okay.
Yeah, but
my mom likes it.
Yeah. So I think what was I going to say?
Yeah, I was actually going to the point of passive income.
Right.
In my mindless.
Yeah. Right. So the route I took with doing everything myself, it's been a learning process where there's been a lot of walls I met and a lot of rules I didn't actually know exist until I got the very bad end of that rule. Right. So. It's also a lot of work where you have to be your own manager, and you have to make sure that people don't steal your stuff, things like this. So the workday has more and more become, well, it used to be 10 hours of making music. Now it's like 4 hours of managing myself basically, and then 4 hours of music. So it's definitely a trade-off, and it's not for everyone, but I feel like since I'm in complete control of everything that I do, I find that more freeing, because then I get to choose what I'm a part of and what I'm not.
Yes.
So
I personally went with giving something away exclusively, and that was basically a piece that I did that I signed to a large trailer library. And that song was actually also supposed to be in Castle Crashers, the game that he was featured in. But at this moment, it was, well, basically the music library was managing the rights. Luckily, it worked out in the end because the piece is on Netflix now, actually, in the menu. And but I think the royalties you would actually get from that are so much more higher. Not just through YouTube alone, but also through your album sales and through eventual licensing that comes up through that. And that brings us back to passive income, or the one I wanted to start it on. And a lot of people will just ask me how do you sustain yourself through these long periods when there isn't a project? And I think passive income is pretty much the key to that, because that will...
You mean as in royalties?
Yeah, it will create a certain... Well, let's say that composers are usually often in need to find a project, and I know how desperate it can be. I've been on many of these conferences and just gave around my business card hoping I would find something.
Yeah.
And it is a lot more easier for you if you have something passively running. So, and since we're in that internet day of age, there's so many opportunities for that. And
yeah, I mean, some examples of that are, well, you survive more on the royalties you get from these
licenses,
these license deals, right?
Yeah, but he could actually completely sustain himself from, I would almost say YouTube alone, but he lives in Norway where it's really expensive to live.
Yeah, I mean, it might work here, not in Norway. But yeah, so I'm kind of made a network of a lot of small passive incomes that sustain me as a whole.
Okay.
So I have I put out my things on, I have Newgrounds, and then there's YouTube. I put out my albums, so they're also on Spotify and iTunes, and there's SoundCloud. So just anywhere I can put my things, and anywhere there will be a small stream of revenue, I will use that. And as a whole, it creates a sustainable income. But this is something that you can't necessarily do like right out the gate, right?
Yes,
you need
exactly.
some sort of momentum, of course. So, I mean, now this is how I survive, but well, it's been a part-time job until
exactly
4 years ago.
I didn't actually make any money until 2 years ago, and there was an 8-year struggle of just making music, having no idea what I'm how to actually gain money. I actually had a YouTube channel going, but it was unmonetized for almost the entire time. And yeah, that can, I mean, a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, don't put ads there because it will distract people. But if you have a YouTube channel, if you can put on ads, I know they recently raised the limit to 1,000 subscribers.
Yeah, it's a bit more strict now.
Yeah. If you can do it, then I would absolutely recommend turning it on.
Oh, and also there's also Patreon and a lot of other ways to do it.
Which is actually done by musicians and now used for
but
not music.
So in your case, where you have your agent, the good thing about it is that someone's got your back, right?
No.
Well, in theory.
Yes.
So if something happens, they will protect you, take care of the rights for you.
Actually, yeah, that happened once. Someone actually just ran off with all my music, made a new website, made a Bandcamp, and sold all my music. Just retitled the tracks.
Yeah, I mean that happens to me monthly as well.
Yeah, that was actually an advantage because we had like a lawyer office in London. We were like, hey, you stop this. Yeah, and usually most of the people doing this are very young, so and quite often desperate, I would say. Yeah,
but so I feel like when you do something like, for instance, the path I took, you have to be prepared of actually policing this yourself, right? So you have to allocate a lot of time to protecting your own work, and that can be the stressful part.
Yes, exactly.
I have to like kind of always go to pages like I have to do like a monthly search, for instance, on YouTube.
Yeah,
to see if
he Googles himself a lot.
Yeah, I have to, because I find weird stuff all the time. Like I think it was 2 years ago now, I found out The Voice in France, the TV show. A fan just sent me a clip of
Le Voice.
For
those guys.
Yeah, and I just found out that they've been using my music for a lot of the episodes, and I wasn't aware of this at all, right? So then I had to figure out how to fix that, and now it's a long, grueling process. But I feel like all in all, I'm still way more happy with this route I took, because I still have all the rights to my music library, my library, so I can remaster, resell, rework, and relicense things. And, to me, that freedom is worth it.
Oh yeah, and that generally it's a lot of income. I mean, I've seen it. It's doing really well. So who here is, I've seen a lot of composers around, who here is on SoundCloud? That's a lot of people. Who here is on YouTube? Oh, okay. So something that I find surprising myself, and something that I actually saw on another talk, is that YouTube is actually the largest social media network. Most people actually think Facebook, that goes for Facebook, but it is actually YouTube in terms of just sheer numbers. Which means that on YouTube you pretty much have the largest audience to reach. And
that's true, yeah.
Yeah, the problem with SoundCloud is they don't really pay royalties, except for the big artists. I know they were recently getting sued by the PRS, rightfully so. for not paying anything, but they still don't. If you're somewhat small like me,
right.
you won't get royalties from SoundCloud.
Yeah, there are networks, just like back in the day on YouTube, you can do it yourself. You had to have a network that was that protected you, sort of. And I mean, of course, you have some sort of protection with. Well, I myself, I'm using TuneCore as like my publisher, so there is like a little wall of protection there where you have someone to go to if something goes wrong, but it's definitely, for instance, on SoundCloud, I personally actually haven't taken over SoundCloud again yet, because it's almost depressing when I log on personally, because there's so many re-uploads there, and I have to just like be the bad guy and go and take all of those down, right? And I feel like a lot of it isn't meant bad either. It's just a re-upload from someone who actually likes the music and doesn't like quite understand that this is a page where you cannot do that.
It's the same for YouTube as well, of course. I still remember finding my music in a lot of popular things, but the first reaction I got was actually, how dare them to take my music? And that is I figured the wrong reaction to approach this, because it can actually give you a lot of traction, especially if it's like, even if the video is really stupid, if it's really popular.
Actually, that's a good point, because I feel like one of the reasons why I made it at all and why I'm here today is because I was very lenient with that. If someone wants to upload my stuff, even if it's a re-upload, that's fine, as long as you're not basically like making money off it, right?
Exactly.
So to not be so strict about that, it might feel like scary that someone's
taking your work.
Someone's taking your work, and is using it there and there, and you have no control over it. But I feel like that's sort of like a necessity for other people to actually notice your music, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, for certain things that kind of how's it called? If your piece kind of gets completely put out of context, I think there's a word for that. But what actually happened to me on Newgrounds is the first time I got there, and I uploaded a track, and within 1 week it was used in an animation. There was actually just a picture of a large dick zooming out.
Yeah.
And I think that is actually the thing where you should take action. If you want to, unless you. That's
right, but
it's the dick song now. Yeah.
So I feel like
there's definitely so many opportunities to put yourself out there. And to go back to YouTube, what I generally recommend is just putting everything you have on YouTube, and generally direct your audience.
Like I've been telling you
towards, yes,
for a year now.
Like he's been telling me, I've been not listening. Now I've finally been listening, and I'm doing much better.
Yeah, just as far as advice go, I think that it's important to just like be less critical of yourself and just move on. There's always something you can do better with that track, but just like throw it out there, let everyone see it and hear it, and just move on to the next thing.
Exactly.
Because I mean, me, like every other composer, has like a basement of 1,000 unfinished songs, but the more the better that's out there, because I regret a lot of it now, and it's like this, I find a song 4 years later, and it's like, whoa, what was wrong with this? I could just put it out, and and people would enjoy it, but now no one will, right? So
something that I also recommend is, and you can have that. Oh, was there a question?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead, actually.
Oh, okay. I'll just speak. I'm pretty loud. So you said that you started out trying to monetize some things in YouTube. That was kind of like when you transitioned from sort of not making income, passive income, as you said, through your work, to making that passive income.
Right. Yeah.
My question would be, what niche did you carve out for yourself on YouTube that allowed it to be profitable? Because my big concern is that you might make it to some number of subscribers that gets you some payout, but the payout can be so small at first that it's almost like you're making nothing.
Yes.
So what changed that for you?
Honestly, it's a lot of it is also because this music has already been in other games, so that's obviously kind of the advantage there. But I feel like consistency, really. I mean, I've never stopped uploading. I make at least there's been an upload a month on YouTube for 8 years now. So I just make a lot of music all the time, and it's consistent, and people know that they can come there and hear my stuff. And at first it was very slow. It wasn't something that could sustain me. I mean, I worked a part-time job up until like 4 or 5 years ago, and but it slowly started to become a bigger thing, because the more things I had out there, the more people noticed it, and the more mails I got with suggestions or like someone wanted to license my music here and there. It was just a small thing, but maybe a small mobile game that didn't do so well, but maybe someone liked the music there. They'll go to YouTube to like, maybe the music is on YouTube, because honestly, that's the first place I go when I'm.
So people go to YouTube though to watch things. So they're going to watch something and listen to your music. Is it somehow people making these reposts where they put a visual behind it, or like a gameplay video or something? Like, how is it being
quite often.
How is it being consumed? Is what I'm asking.
Right. Well, I actually make the graphics myself. I try to like make an interesting picture to go with it, some animations.
It's not absolutely necessary, but it's kind of nice to have
things like this, and just like have the music rolling. So that's like the original upload. But I definitely also allow other people to upload it, like in gameplay videos, and like I have no restriction there. It's just when it gets commercial, like when a product is actually sold with my music, that's when it's a problem. But I don't have any filter there.
Something that I also wanted to address, since you mentioned niche, sometimes when you have a very specific style of music, and I'm saying that because I've seen this YouTube channel called, I think they're Adrian von Ziegler. I might have slain his name there, but fair enough. He is a really good composer, and he has a giant following because he's making Celtic music. And there's actually a huge crowd for that on YouTube, and this is basically a guy who has like millions of followers. So he's probably just making a living from YouTube alone, and there will be much more from selling his albums. I actually personally approached it a little bit differently, and just want to ask, are there film composers here? Anyone who composed for film before? Really good. What I did is, what I can really recommend is to actually go to colleges, animation colleges, especially like Ringling or ColArts. Actually, the first person that I worked with was Tonico Pantoja. Back then, he was just actually a personal friend of mine and a small animator. Now he actually works on How to Train Your Dragon 3 with DreamWorks. And he put out a lot of films, and a lot of these films, they went absolutely viral. One of them was even nominated for an Annie, and people just went absolutely nuts about them. And I was in the good spot of having all his music scored, which means that sort of traction came over from him.
You definitely, like, there's no way around the fact that you definitely need some big thing, something that's going to blow up a little bit, so people will notice you. But that chance increases the more you let people use your things, I feel. So there's been a lot of cases where I probably should have been paid a lot more for the license for things, but sadly, if I didn't, then I wouldn't have that opportunity. I'm not saying that you should just give away because that's all you can get, but you have to, sometimes I feel like it's better to be a little bit lenient with that, or else you might not get anywhere.
Exactly, yeah.
So, anyone else have any questions? Now we're at
how much time do we have, actually?
We have 7 more minutes.
Oh, that's cool. I also wanted to say that some colleges, like Ringling, because most people, when they think about doing music for students, they think about working for free. But some colleges like Ringling, ColArts, Sheridan,
they have a lot of money. Yeah,
they pay insanely well, and it is actually I got paid for some student films more than for some commercials that I actually did, and most people don't really believe that because they think of student work as pro bono, free, and low pay,
right? Yeah,
which it isn't.
Yeah, it's definitely also, but that is like a one-time off payment, right?
Of course it is. Of course,
yeah.
yes.
So,
but if you actually do a couple of these every year, it's actually very well sustainable. And after you did the film, you can also upload the music to your channel and have something to show. And if you're really lucky, then the film will eventually take off and land at the Emmys or the Oscars.
That's actually a good point. Every time I do a job for someone, if I do a job for a video game company, for instance, I usually make sure that I'm allowed to upload the music when the game is out and create an album and release that as well. So, although the job itself might not pay as much, I'm able to take it anyway, because I know that that will sort of be made back with all the listens and all the purchases from the albums. So the whole thing is kind of what makes it sustainable, not one part.
Exactly, yeah. You got to build multiple pillars, actually. And for me, it's basically passive and active income that makes me sustain myself. I would almost say I'm at a point where I can almost make it passively, not just quite yet, but almost there. And I think that's something to like every composer should approach. Like, you absolutely need your album sales and your passive income, your royalties, and just grab whatever you can get.
Yeah, as a whole, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I was just wondering, how much time do you typically spend on like a weekly or monthly basis working on the social networking aspect? Because I felt the tendency to get a little bogged down in it from time to time.
It can absolutely be a bit overwhelming,
especially if you run like a Patreon, or do you run a Patreon?
Yeah, I have. It's usually maybe 2-3 hours a day, actually. Yeah. So I start the day with that. It's like a routine: answer all mails, all PMs everywhere, and then I try to be as active as possible with the community. But of course, you can't answer every comment and everything,
especially on YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's. I'd say about 3 hours a day.
Yeah. For me, it's actually a bit more easygoing. It's maybe 30 minutes, 10, because I don't have like the fan base that he does.
Yeah, but it's definitely also the nurturing of the fans you already have that will create more fans. I feel like
exactly.
If you create like a wall between you and the people that listen, then people are gonna ebb out or just listen from the sideline, not really be active and care about what you do, other than just listening, right? So I think that's definitely a really important aspect of it, whether you do it like with an agent or not.
Yeah. Over there?
Yeah. Do either of you put your music on stock music libraries? Have you pursued that as well?
Yes. Actually not stock or royalty free. I've actually went with a music library in London that is, I would actually not recommend, that's actually perhaps not recommend, but I haven't done it myself, so I can judge it, but I see that a lot of stock music libraries give away their music for a really low rate. And I had a friend who's actually big in Germany, as big as you can be there, and he does a lot of these stock tracks, and he tells me that he's, I think, with the Getty Music Library somewhere in New York, and he told me that they're giving his music away for super cheap, and it's perhaps just a few $100s, if any, every year. What I would recommend is signing with a non-exclusive library. And putting your work in a lot of these non-exclusive libraries, because you'll just maintain your rights, and you will have your music in circulation, actually. And for me, I worked with a library in London, and they put my music in a lot of shows like Big Brother, and I'm not proud of that, but it pays. It pays really well.
Me personally, I have not done that. It might be something that I'm willing to do in the future, but like you said, it's very important that it's non-exclusive. Again, I can't emphasize enough to not give away all your rights.
I mean, if it's with a super prestigious library and
it's 1 minute left. So do you want to?
I just wanted to contribute to that because I actually am starting work for one. The general advice I've heard is don't try to work for the bigger ones, because all your stuff is going to vanish.
Yeah, that's also
find like a mid-sized one that supplies like a lot of different networks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually really.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah, that's-
seems like they're getting more custom made.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. I've been with Immediate Music, if anyone knows them, and I have one track in there, and it might be on Netflix. It was actually licensed for Mythbusters too, but my paycheck was just abysmal for that.
So yeah, I think that's all the time we had now. But thanks to you.
Yeah, if you have any questions, yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, we'll still be here for the next 6 hours.
Yeah,
At
we
least.
have a booth downstairs, so just come and say hi.
we actually have nothing to do today.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.